Camtasia is a powerful, easy-to-use screen recorder that lets you create videos without having to be a video pro. I've been playing around with Camtasia for about 2 weeks and I've already been able to create some pretty spiffy videos. The good news is that Camtasia is easy to use. It's pretty intuitive. The bad news is that there are tons of tools, and quite honestly, you can get lost in all of the rigmarole trying to create a simple video. While you could spend a lot of time playing with all the tools and the options, this video is going to cover some of the most basic features to help you create memorable videos for your classes. Now, before you create a Camtasia video, you're going to need to get the Camtasia application, and I really recommend that you go ahead and get it installed in your office machine. When you're creating a video, everything has to be kept together, and having it all on your one machine is so much easier than trying to port around the different elements. The Center for Faculty Excellence controls the Camtasia licenses for BG, so you'll need to email them or call them and ask for Camtasia to be installed. From there, they contact the Technology Support Center, who will then arrange to install the application. Now, obviously, this is going to take a couple of days to complete, so be sure to plan ahead. Depending on your computer, you may also need to get a hold of an external microphone or a webcam, depending on what you want to do with your video. Once you've gathered all your materials for creating your video, I recommend that you take some time to actually go through some of the video tutorials at TechSmith.com. TechSmith is the producer of Camtasia, and they put together a whole series of really helpful how-to videos. They go through everything from getting started down to more advanced features like adding transitions, adding music, even to things like putting up a green screen and, imposing your image. One of the advanced options that we have to make sure we include in our videos for our classes is that we must include closed captioning. I've included one of the videos on the back end of this particular video just to help get you started, but there are several ways that you can add closed captions. And again, if you go to the TechSmith.com website, you can look through any of those options as well. Well, folks, let's make a video.
I'm going to share some tips to help you have a successful recording session with Camtasia. These tips should save you a lot of time editing down the road and give you a much better quality video in the end. First tip, clean up your computer. Unless you'll be recording a full screen application or a presentation that hides everything else, make sure what your viewers see on your computer desktop isn't distracting. Try closing any applications you're not using. Also, move the icons off of your desktop. If you have 2 monitors, it makes it really easy to just drag them to the monitor that you won't be recording. Or put them in a temporary folder somewhere else. You can always move them back later. Finally, if your background is too colorful or consists of family pictures or funny comics, consider changing it to something a little less distracting. The next tip pertains to planning and involves either writing out a script or preparing a detailed outline. A script helps you organize everything you want to include in your video and make sure that your language is exact and concise. Some people just have a gift and can press record and start talking to create a great video. For me, not so much. I tend to create longer videos, say a lot more, and jump around to different topics instead of staying focused on the main goals of the video tutorial. Part of writing the script or outline involves doing a practice run-through of your recording. This is very helpful so that you can make sure that your video flows well and you aren't surprised if something unexpected happens during the real recording. The final tip in this tutorial is about audio quality. Use a decent USB microphone in a quiet setting. Whether it's a headset or desktop microphone, USB is the way to go and is going to give you better sounding audio. Also, be aware of your surroundings and stay clear of the noisy heat vent, doors opening and closing, and other noises that may get picked up by your microphone. I'm sure we could come up with more tips to share, but I think the 3 we've covered are a great start. This tutorial will show you how to capture a full screen recording with audio narration. When you first launch Camtasia Studio, it opens into the editor. Locate and click the Record the Screen button near the top left corner. Camtasia Studio minimizes to the taskbar and the recorder opens. By default, the full screen option is selected to be recorded, and a green dashed line is visible along the outside border of your screen. This line lets you know that everything on your screen inside the area will be recorded. It's possible to select a custom region of your screen using the Custom button, but we'll stick with full screen for this first recording. Under Recorded Inputs, you can choose to record a connected web camera and audio with a microphone. We'll focus on audio for this tutorial. Audio is turned on by default as noted by a green check mark. Enable and disable audio by simply clicking on the button. If you have multiple audio recording devices connected, expand the audio menu and choose your input source. Your system audio is also recorded by default. This is any audio that comes out of your speakers. System audio is added to a separate audio track on your timeline. If you don't want the system audio recorded, uncheck this option in the audio menu. I'll go ahead and uncheck system audio for this example. Now let's test the audio input. Speak into your microphone and use the slider to adjust the volume level until it displays near the middle. As the final preparation, open the applications or windows you plan to record. This way you won't have to fumble around to open anything up once you begin recording. Now click the red record button or use the hotkey F9. A 3, 2, 1 countdown appears. After the 1 disappears, everything that happens on your screen and what you're saying into the microphone is recorded. When finished recording, I recommend using the hotkey F10 to stop your recording, but you can also stop the recording from the taskbar. A preview of your recording will appear, but we'll cover this in the next tutorial. After you stop recording, you're prompted with a preview of what was captured. The preview window allows you to review what you recorded before you actually save it. Click this button near the bottom to fit the entire recording to the preview window, and again to view it at its full resolution. Once you've reviewed your recording, click the Save and Edit button. This is where project management becomes important. I suggest creating a new folder for each video project you work on. This way you can save all of your media in one place. I'll create a new folder for this project and name it Calculator. This is where I'll save all of the media files, like images, audio, and video files, that I plan on adding to my Camtasia Studio project. Following this procedure ensures everything is nicely organized for each of my Camtasia projects. Then I'll give the recording a name and click Save. The recording file will be saved and opened within a new Camtasia Studio project. The project is where you'll add and edit your files. Notice how the recording we just saved has been added to the clip bin and the timeline. I'll cover how to save this project in a minute, but first, let's take a quick peek at the folder we created earlier. We've got our image, audio, and video files from before, and now we've added the recording file. The recording file, or TREC, is your raw screen recording. TREC files are also cross-platform compatible, which means they can be used in both Camtasia Studio and Camtasia for Mac projects. If you're using Camtasia Studio version 8.3 or earlier, your recording will be a CamRec file. CamRecs are only compatible with Camtasia Studio. Alright, the last thing we need to add to this folder is the project file. To save the project, go to File, Save Project. I'll save this project using the same name as the recording file, and in the same folder location. The first time you save a project, you'll be prompted with a message reminding you that in order to share your video with someone, you'll need to produce it into a shareable format. We'll cover this step in the Produce and Share video later in this series. Let's take one last look at what's in our folder. We've got our media files, our recording file, and now our project file. This is what you'll open when you want to continue working on your project. Now you're ready to learn about editing. This tutorial will give you a quick tour of the editor to help you get started. The three main areas of the editor are the clip bin, the canvas, and the timeline. Let's start with the clip bin. Along the bottom of this area you'll see a set of tabs. The clip bin tab is selected, and I like to think of this as the home tab. The clip bin holds all of the video, audio, and image files that are being used in the current project. Import additional media to use in your project by clicking this button. Drag individual clips from the clip bin to the timeline to add them to your video. The next tab is the library. The library holds a variety of title clips, video segments, animations, callouts, audio, and other media that can be used from project to project, and you can add your own at any time. The rest of the tabs are for adding or editing special effects to your video. Click on More to view additional features you can use. To make a new recording, click the Record the Screen button. And when you're finished editing your project, click the Produce and Share button to produce your video into a number of different shareable formats. And just like most other applications, all features and settings for Camtasia Studio can be accessed from the menu bar. The next stop on this tour is the canvas. You may also hear this area referred to as the preview window at times, because this is where you preview your video as it's playing back on your timeline. The canvas gives you total control over how your video is displayed for your viewers. Let me give you some examples of what I mean. Right now, the video fills the entire canvas. If you click and hold on top of the video, you'll see some yellow grid lines. You can drag the video and position it wherever you want, and the grid lines help snap your video to specific areas or quadrants. If you'd like to resize your recording to be smaller or larger within your final video, just grab one of the corners and drag to resize it. You can even rotate your video to customize the appearance even more. For more details on working with the canvas, check out our Canvas in-depth tutorial. Before leaving the canvas, there are a few more things to note. Here are the playback controls and a helpful time code to show the current position of the playhead and overall duration of the video. Scrub through the video to quickly locate a specific segment. Expand this menu to change the view percentage of your video on the canvas, or choose Shrink to Fit so everything is sure to be visible. But please note that this doesn't change your editing or production dimensions for your video. It only changes how the video looks on the canvas to help with editing. If you do want to change your editing dimensions, which will change the size of your produced video, click here. This will bring up the Editing Dimensions dialog. By default, Camtasia uses the maximum 720p HD option. This is a versatile standard that's comfortably viewed on large monitors, laptops, and tablets, even the small ones. For more on editing dimensions and the default option, check out our Editing Dimensions Basics tutorial. The last area we are going to cover is the timeline. This is where you assemble and edit your video. There are an unlimited number of tracks for you to build your video projects. You can place video, audio, or images on any track, and at any position. Click the plus button to make new tracks, and right-click a track to rename it, remove it, or choose other options from the menu. Adjust the height of a track by hovering over one of the edges until you see a double arrow. Or adjust the heights of all tracks by using this slider. You'll notice the playhead has a green in-point and a red out-point connected to it. These are used for making selections on your timeline to help you delete, copy, or perform other actions. The quickest way to clear a selection made with these points is to double-click the playhead. The timeline toolbar contains a zoom in and zoom out slider, which really helps with editing as it lets you make more precise cuts and selections. There are also buttons to cut, split, copy, and paste media on the timeline. There is so much more I'd love to share with you about the timeline in this tutorial, but hopefully this editor overview covered enough to get you started and ready to explore on your own. When you record at full screen or with any large dimensions, sometimes it's difficult to see the details of your video when producing to much smaller dimensions, such as on a mobile device or a website. That's where Camtasia's Smart Focus feature can help. Smart Focus automatically predicts where to zoom in during your video to make it easier to see things on your screen. All this happens behind the scenes during recording, as Smart Focus analyzes the position of your mouse cursor, which windows are active, and when text is entered. Smart Focus then uses this data to add zoom animations to your timeline in the editor. One important thing to note is that Smart Focus will only work with TREC or CamRec recording files. It will not work when saving your recordings to the AVI format or with other video formats that can be imported into Camtasia Studio. You can still manually zoom and pan with other video formats, but the Smart Focus data just won't be present. Let's take a look at how Smart Focus is applied, and then how easy it is to edit and add new zoom animations. There are a few different ways you can apply Smart Focus animations to your recording files. First, click the Zoom and Pan tab. Then look for the Smart Focus options. If you check Apply Smart Focus to clips added, Camtasia will apply Smart Focus animations to any recording files added to the timeline from here on out. If you click Apply Smart Focus to selected clips, Smart Focus animations will be applied to any recording files that are selected on the timeline. And if you click Apply Smart Focus to Timeline, Camtasia will apply Smart Focus animations to the recording files that are currently on your timeline. If you want Smart Focus animations applied to your recording files every time you start a new project in Camtasia, go to Tools, Options, and then check Apply Smart Focus to Clips Added. When Smart Focus animations are applied, you'll see this pop up on the timeline. You will also see these blue visual animations that represent where Smart Focus was automatically applied. Their placement is predicted based on data collected during the recording. You can position the playhead before any of the animations and play back the video to see what happens in the canvas. Here it looks like this zoom is focusing in on the calculator as the mouse pointer is clicking the keys. To reposition when the zoom happens during the video, click and drag the animation on the timeline. It's also very easy to make quick edits to an animation. Just double-click one of them and the Visual Properties tab opens. The Visual Properties gives you tons of control over how your media looks and appears in your video. This also includes editing your zoom animations. Adjust the scale of your zoom by dragging this slider, and see the changes instantly on the canvas. If you're zooming in, targeting 100% is a good rule to follow because that's where your video will be the clearest. Anything over 100% may cause your video to look blurry or pixelated. You can also adjust the opacity and other visual effects, but we'll cover these more in the Visual Properties tutorial. Besides using the scale slider to adjust the zoom level, it's also possible to grab one of the corners on the canvas to scale your video. You may need to change the percentage of view on the canvas using this drop-down menu, or the scroll wheel on your mouse to see more of your recorded video. Then just drag the recording to reposition what you want to show inside the preview area of the canvas. Anything outside of this video preview area will not show up in the produced video. Once the video is zoomed into its new location, it will remain there until it either reaches the end of the clip or another animation. Let's play back the video just before this next animation to see what happens. Now the focus is on the Notepad document, and everything else is not visible in the video. Again, if this animation needed to be edited, just double-click it and make the changes within the Visual Properties tab. To remove any or all existing animations from a clip, right-click one of them and either choose Delete or Delete All Visual Animations. If you have multiple clips on the timeline, you will have to delete all visual animations separately from those clips. To add a visual animation manually, first select the media and position the playhead where you want to add the animation. If you don't have any media selected on the timeline, you will see this message in the Visual Properties tab. So, with the media selected, click the Add Animation button. If you like keyboard shortcuts, the hotkey Z will also work, but again, the media must be selected on the timeline in order to add an animation. You can resize and reposition the video on the canvas so that it shows exactly what you want at this point in the video. As an alternative, you can also reposition the level of zoom from within the Zoom and Pan tab. Whatever is placed inside this selection rectangle on the left gets displayed in the video at this point in time. Now it's up to you to decide if you want Smart Focus to help guide you with when to zoom and pan, or take over the control yourself and add the visual animations manually. No matter how careful you are when recording your screencasts, there will probably be times when you'll need to cut out a section of audio or video. In this video, we'll be working with only one track on the timeline, with both the audio and video combined. This just means that when we make a cut, it will remove both audio and video at the same time. In order to cut something from the timeline, you'll need to make a selection first using the green and red in and out points on the playhead. In this example recording, I actually built in a few areas to be removed just for this tutorial. The opening line in this script is the first part that needs to be cut. In order to make a precise selection to cut, you may need to use the zoom in slider to show more detail on the timeline. This allows you to see breaks in the audio much easier. With the playhead positioned at the beginning of the timeline, click and drag the red out point to make the selection. If you press your spacebar, your video will play back only the selected area on your timeline. Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on how to use the Microsoft Windows Calculator. This is a great way to confirm that you've selected the correct area. The spacebar is definitely the hotkey I use the most to quickly play and pause my video on the timeline. You can always adjust the selection by dragging the red or green parts of the playhead. When ready, click the cut icon to remove the selected audio and video from the timeline. Everything from the right will automatically move to the left, and you'll now have a new start to the video. Let's look at another example, when you need to cut something from the middle of your video. If we look at the sample script again, an was built in during step 5 that needs to be removed. To find that audio, position the playhead where you think it might be, and then press the spacebar to play back the video. Remember that you may need to zoom in or out of the timeline to help locate the exact piece of audio. Once you find it, make the selection using the green and red in and out points. Press the cut icon and the is removed. Everything to the right is moved left to keep everything in sync. We'll finish with one more example when the section you want to cut is at the end of a clip. In a case like this, instead of making a selection, simply hover over the very end of the clip until you see a double arrow. Then, click and drag to crop the section of the clip. The next video in this series talks about how to add a callout to help draw attention, or apply special effects to specific parts of your video. Callouts are a great feature that help draw attention to something important on the screen. We provide a lot of different callouts to choose from, including arrows, to point directly to something specific in your video, spotlight, which darkens everything on the screen except for the area you want to focus on, text callouts, which are pretty self-explanatory and are great for easily adding text anywhere in your video. There's also a blur callout to hide certain areas of your recording that you don't want everyone to see, like login information. And we've even added some new sketch motion callouts, which makes it look like you're drawing right on the screen. Let me show you the process for adding callouts to your video projects. The first thing you'll need to do is position the playhead on the timeline where you want to insert a callout. Exact placement of the playhead isn't that critical at this point, because it's pretty easy to adjust placement later. In this example, I want to add a callout to point to the notepad document and calculator when the audio mentions each of them. Audio can be a big help for determining when callout should be placed on the timeline, so that it's in sync and looks right. Next, select the Callout tab and click on the Add Callout button. This will add the most recently used callout to the timeline on a new track, and also place it on the canvas. If you like hotkeys, the C key on the keyboard will also quickly add a callout to your timeline. If the callout that was added isn't the one you want, then expand the Shape menu and choose a new callout from the list. Here's where you'll find the ones I showed you earlier, like the spotlight, text, blur, and the sketch motion callouts. I recommend that you play around with all of these to see which ones you like, but I'll stick with the arrow callout for this tutorial. Note that the callout is layered on top of the video and can be positioned anywhere by dragging it on the canvas. Grab one of the corners to resize it. You can even free rotate the callout using this handle in the center. I'll point it to the notepad document since this is when the audio is mentioning it. To change the properties of the selected callout, expand these menus to change the border color and width, the fill color, and many different effects. Some callouts even allow you to add text to them as well. Again, play around with each of these properties to learn how to customize the look of your callouts. With the callout looking the way you want it, let's now look at the placement of the arrow callout on the timeline. Position the playhead just before the callout and play back the video. I like using my spacebar to play and pause my video on the timeline. Does the callout align with the audio? Does it fade in and disappear at the right times? If the placement of the callout needs to be modified, click and drag it to a new location on the track so that it syncs up with the audio. To adjust the fade in and fade out properties, use these sliders to set the desired length, or manually enter in the number of seconds. In this example, the callout stays visible for too long, so the duration needs to be adjusted. Hover over one of its edges until you see a double arrow. Click and drag the edge of the callout to the desired length or duration. To create the exact same callout to point to the calculator, right-click the callout and choose Copy. Position the playhead where you want the new callout and paste. Then you'll need to rotate or flip the callout to point it to the calculator, and adjust the placement on the timeline as needed. One final tip that I want to share in this tutorial is that callouts are layered on the timeline just like they are layered on the canvas. If this callout lived on a track below the video, it wouldn't show up because it's actually layered underneath the video clip. This works the same for all media that is present on the timeline, so just keep that in mind when working through your projects. If you watched the Smart Focus and Zoom and Pan tutorial, you've already seen how Visual Properties can scale the video to zoom in on a specific area. This tutorial explores the visual properties a little more and helps you use your own creativity to make your videos more engaging. In the previous video of this Getting Started series, we looked at adding callouts to help direct viewers' attention. We added two callouts, one pointing to the notepad document and another arrow pointing to the calculator. Let's look at one example of how using visual properties can eliminate one of these callouts and create a cool animated way to engage viewers. First, let's select and delete this second arrow callout, since we'll only need one for this example. Next, select this arrow callout and make sure to position the playhead somewhere in the middle so it appears on the canvas. This next step is pretty important and often the cause of animations that don't work correctly. Before adding an animation, choose a starting point for the arrow. I'm going to drag it outside of the viewing area on the canvas to start. Now with the callout selected on the timeline, select the Visual Properties tab and then click the Add Animation button. You'll see the visual animation on the timeline. If that's not where you want the animation to happen, you can always just drag it to a new location. Now if you scrub the playhead over this animation, nothing appears to happen. So, make sure that you position the playhead after the animation dot or on it by double-clicking it, and then go ahead and drag the callout to the canvas so that it's pointing to the notepad document. As you are dragging the arrow on the canvas, you'll see the animation enlarge to show that you are editing the position of this media. To test out the changes that we made, position the playhead before the callout and play back the video. Pretty cool, right? Now it gets even cooler. Since we deleted the second callout earlier, I'm going to extend the duration of this callout on the timeline past the audio that mentions the calculator. I'll then position the playhead at the start of this new audio and add a new animation. Drag to adjust the position of the animation on the timeline as needed. Double-click the animation to make sure that the playhead is at that location on the timeline. Next, rotate the arrow callout on the canvas and position it so it's pointing to the calculator. Position the playhead before the callout on the timeline and play back the video to see the animation effects. This example just focused on callouts, but any media that is present on the timeline can have visual animations added to it. Try it with your webcam video, or have multiple video clips playing side by side. The ideas are pretty much endless, and all it requires is a little bit of creativity.
If you are someone who likes to write scripts for your videos, then this Sync Captions with Script option might be of interest. Let me walk you through this process. First, make sure you copy the script to your clipboard, and then in the Captions tab, paste it into the text box. When compared to the speech-to-text feature, this option may save you some editing time since it maintains all of the capitalization and punctuation. A maximum of 3 lines of text at a time can be visible in the video, and this is illustrated with the black text in the text box. The red text indicates text that is not yet captioned. You'll also see a caption that was added to the caption track on the timeline. You can also adjust the starting position and duration of each caption by clicking and dragging it, but we'll look at this a little later. When you're ready to start, click the Sync Captions button. A dialog window appears with some helpful tips on how to complete this process. Click Continue, and the playback of the video begins immediately.
Welcome back. I hope you've been doing the exercises.
The Syncing Captions controls appear in the bottom left, so you can pause or stop the captioning process at any time. As the audio plays back, I'm going to try to listen to it while reading along with the text. When I click a word, that word will become the first word in the next caption. When doing this, I will try looking for logical breaks in the text, such as sentence breaks. Now I'm going to click the Resume button. Watch as I try to click and sync up the text with the audio. Ready?
In this tutorial, we'll continue with the theme of making your videos more professional looking by animating your media and adding video effects to bring attention and interest. Last time, we added transitions to this arrow to make it appear and disappear smoothly. One thing we can do to add a little more...
When you are finished captioning your audio, here are a few tips that might help. If any of the captions aren't synced with the audio on the timeline, drag an edge to adjust the duration of the caption. You can also use the audio waveform as a guide when aligning the start and end of the caption. If you'd ever like to merge 2 separate captions into one, right-click the timestamp of the later caption and choose Merge Text with Previous Caption. Note that the captions on the timeline have merged as well. And finally, if you've started adding captions on the timeline but didn't finish, you can always continue where you left off by simply placing the playhead in that position on the timeline. Click the Sync Captions button. This dialog will appear. Choose this option to continue where you left off, or maybe you need to start over completely. If so, select the second option and restart the process. To learn more about working with captions, check out the other video tutorials. Thanks for watching.
To produce your Camtasia Studio project into a video you can easily share with others. Although Camtasia Studio has many different file formats to produce your video project into, here I'm going to show you how to use screencast.com to upload and share your video with others. Note that you will need to be connected to the internet in order to upload to screencast.com. Screencast.com is TechSmith's content hosting service, and we give you 2 gigabytes of...
Okay, so I'm going to take over this TechSmith tutorial at this point. Quite honestly, they try to get you to save it on their screencast website, and I don't think it needs to be that darn complicated. If you'd like to know how to use a screencast, go ahead and go to the TechSmith website and view that tutorial. But I'm going to show you how to produce your video in a much simpler and, I think, much more logical way. So you've got all of your stuff created. Everything's on your timeline. To produce this thing and make it visible to people, you have to go ahead and click where it says Produce and Share. Now, one thing that I've found is that it seems like the easiest way to produce this baby is as an MP4. So this really tightly connects everything together, makes it really simple for a viewer to get a hold of it and to view it. Now, I also save this thing with a Smart Player, just because then when my person clicks on it, it automatically opens up with QuickTime. Nice and simple. Now, once I've picked the format I want to share, and folks, you can produce this in any way you like, play around with it, figure it out. This is the one I like. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. From here, I'm going to have to save my video and ask me where I want to save it. So here's the name of my video. I can save it here on my desktop. I can pick a different folder, whatever makes everybody happy. Okay, and for me, this is much simpler than going through their website with their logins and all of this happy stuff. All I get from here, and I just leave everything on the defaults because honestly, I don't know what any of the other stuff means. If you figure it out, let me know. I'm just going to go ahead and click on Finish. Now, this tells me, yep, this is what's going to happen, is click Yes. And now it's going to take several minutes, probably, for this baby to render. And you just have to be patient. Depending on how much stuff you have in it, it's going to take a few minutes. So this is a good time. Have a snack, check your email on another screen, whatever. Once your production has finished rendering, so everything has gotten smooshed together and created into a video, you'll get a screen that looks like this. Basically, all you need to do at this point is click Finish, and then the video will actually pop up in a separate window. Since I've created this video as an MP4, once it's done, it automatically shows up in a separate screen on my machine that looks like this. If I want to take a look at it and see how it'll look to my viewers, all I've got to do is scroll over top, hit play. Once I've done a little preview of it and made sure everything looks awesome, now I want to go ahead and find it on my desktop so I can actually share it with people. So let me close some of these windows. And let's find it on the desktop. So I saved it in a folder that was called Virtual Flock. And if I look at all these formats, this is what saving as an MP4 will give you. So I've actually got it in several different formats that I can pop into different kinds of things. The one that I want to use and show with my class and that I can import really easily is this one that ends in MP4. So all I need to do is I'm going to take this baby out, I'm going to drag it out onto my desktop, minimize this guy, and this is my MP4. So now if I want to send it to someone, all I have to do, insert as an attachment, go to my computer, find the file, there it is, open it, send it as an attachment. Then once my person gets this particular email, they're going to go ahead, open it up, and they can see it right there on their screen. Simple. I can also add it to Canvas in the same way. So there it is, folks. Everything that I think you need to make a successful Camtasia video. Check out those TechSmith tutorials, and when you figure something new out, let me know. I learn stuff new every day.